You're doing everything right. You're eating less, you're exercising more, you're getting enough of sleep, and the weight is still not moving. If that sounds familiar, I need you to hear this clearly. It is not your fault, and it is not about willpower. After 40, something shifts in your body that most doctors never explain, and most women never see coming. Today, we are going to talk about exactly what you can do, what it is, and how you can actually make a huge change in your life by doing certain things. Now, my guest today has spent his career studying one of the most overlooked areas in women's health: what happens to the female body after 40, and why the fitness and diet advice that worked in your 30s simply stops working. Now, Coach Boza, he is a European ex professional bodybuilder, an international bodybuilding judge, a published author, and the founder of NFit Prime. He has built his practice around the hormone strategy for women and men over 40, and has worked with clients across Asia and Europe, helping them understand and work with their changing biologically, and rather than just fighting against it. Now, Coach Boza, welcome to the show. I am very excited to have you here. It's a pleasure to have you and an honor. Now, let's start with the question every woman over 40 is asking. She is doing the same things she always did: the same diet, the same exercise, and nothing is working the way it used to. What is actually happening in her body?
So hormones are playing a huge role in our bodies. They're basically the management system. Like in our 20s, we're getting like we have one type of management system, and then after 40s, the management system is shifting, if I can say like that. So basically, what we're doing, we're trying to run this company with different management system, same way, and that's why it's not working. Basically, what I like to say is like in your 30s, 35, you don't expect to drink like whole night, have these wild nights, and then work tomorrow, just like you did in your teen when you were a teenager, right? So that's why you can't expect to have like it
Hmm.
when you're 45, the same results when you did. And this is a problem, what I like to call like willpower based fitness, especially with successful people, successful women. They are like in their brain, it's rooted that they need to push harder, and sometimes this pushing harder can actually backfire on them. Sometimes it usually does, because like you need just different approach. It doesn't mean that you can't have. It just means you need a different approach. So I always like to tell this story about one of my clients. And when she came to me, she was training like 5 days a week, and she was eating less than her 5-year-old son. And basically, she was expecting to have the same results when she was like young. But the situation just got worse and worse. And the first thing we did, we cut from 5 days a week to 3 days a week. And also, instead of this like jumping jacks and stuff like that, we started lifting more like deadlifts, 6 to 8 rep, all these compound strength movements. And we started eating like enough protein, which was like 1.5 gram per pound of body weight. So really, like for her, it was like I can't eat that much food, and especially this is like really important, healthy fats.
Hmm.
Healthy fats are really important, like nuts, eggs, red meat, and because what fats that they're essential for producing our hormones. When you don't have fats, your body can't produce hormones. They're like essential build blocks for your hormones. And what that does to your body, like this heavy lifting, it stresses your body, pushes your body to align itself, which means like to increase testosterone back to its when it was like this, and estrogen to produce more estrogen instead of progesterone, which is happening after 40 in this perimenopause phase, and
Right.
growth hormone as well. And also like it can regulate your sleep as well. So this is something that I recommend, instead of training like every day, like there's a lot of this like, how would I call it? Like advices out there that are like counterproductive. Like there's a bad workout is better than no workout. No, I don't think that's what you need. is like you need a good night of good rest, and then you need one day of, I mean, heavy workout session, and then rest for 2 days, and then heavy workout session, and then rest for 2 days, and then heavy workout session. This will push your body to align, especially hormones. They're really important. And
Right.
also, what can I say? Like, it depends on what stage a person is. But if it's just starting, the first thing I would suggest is to do this like reset of their body, which is like the three most important things. It's like you need to reset your sleep schedule, you need to reset your blood sugar levels, like these cravings, which means like you need to focus carbs in the morning and or afternoon, depends on your day, and
Why
your
does
guts
Go ahead.
and your guts,
Hmm.
your digestion system, because
Right.
sometimes with the bad food, with the processed food, like digest digestion is sometimes it's ruined. So you think like you're eating right food, but there's something in this food that makes you actually not absorbing the food.
Now, why does most women they've heard of menopause, but perimenopause catches almost everyone off guard?
Why? Well, because like this is something new. Let me be honest. Like this is something new, even for me. Like maybe like 5, 6 years ago, when I started training with ladies, a lot of ladies in their 40s, they asked me the same. Like some questions were like, "Will I ever be able to feel the same?" Or like all these hot flashes or stuff like that. And I didn't know. Like I had no answer. But the thing for me is like I'm not afraid to say that I don't know. Like fitness and wellness is such a huge field. So I started googling. And in few years, this recent years, asking AI to get me an answers, and it was just not complete answers, crappy answers. So it's really new, if I can say, if I can be honest, this perimenopausal shift. Because back when I was competing in professional bodybuilding, doing hormonal like panel, like blood panel, hormonal panel, this was something that only athletes would do, you know, like not like a doctor would send you. And also you have to understand the doctors, this healthcare or sick care, if we want to call it the right way. The doctor's goal is only to keep you not getting sick.
Well, I think a lot of times, I think with perimenopause, as we get older, our body starts to slow down, and and then we start producing less hormones, and we start our cells start to slow down as well. So the hormones in our body, which our whole body is run by hormones, starts to actually slow down, and we're not producing as much. And when we don't produce as much, just estrogen, for example, alone it controls over 400 things in the body. So when you start to get older and you start to produce less hormones, you're not aware of it until you start feeling the symptoms. When you start feeling the fatigue, or your period starts to get really heavy and it starts to last a longer period of time, or you get so chronic your fatigue that you can't even roll out of bed. Or a lot of women too, they have experienced, out of the blue, mood swings, and all these different things start to happen with women. I think that, perimenopause has been here forever. It's just that I think a lot of women, are not educated on it. So when it does start to happen, they're clueless of what's going on. And, that's when I think, a lot of people, don't realize it, but blood work is actually, when you start to get all those symptoms, blood work is probably the best thing to do, is to go to a doctor, like a functional medicine doctor, and get an extensive blood work out so you could see where your hormones are at and you could see what vitamins you're deficient in. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, so a huge problem with this is that this whole concept of healthcare is that sometimes the doctor's goal is to keep you not getting sick. For him, menopause and perimenopause is something normal. So when you address the doctor and and he says, "Oh yeah, that's like normal, that's like expected from him." And yes, it's expected, but you need to think about your healthcare as a performance. You can always elevate your estrogen, you can always elevate your testosterone, you can always elevate your growth hormone. These are things that a lot of doctors, they're not trained, their mindset, their goal is not trained to do that. So yeah, basically there are a lot of doctors, they need to do something on their own, and then help their patients. And you can see that because like basically you have like, I don't know, maybe a dozen doctors, they're
Hmm.
addressing this issue, and saying from different perspective than like getting sick. It's like because you're not sick, it's your like normal life cycle, but like you can do a lot. You can do a lot to get this, even like to push later in your life, or just to make it much more easier for you, you know
Yeah.
and also, when you address, if like maybe 100 years ago, there was not a lot of like public talking about like periods. There was like a lot of girls would, I know, like in rural areas, they would get their first period and they would get so scared because they never heard about that. But like for example, today a girl will know my period is coming. That's why I'm so like anxious, angry. That's why I want to cry, or that's why I want to eat that chocolate or something like that. And when you know what is happening to your body, it's much easier to go through or to control it.
Yeah. That's why I always suggest never to go to a primary doctor because 'cause they're not really equipped to deal with the hormone changes. But if you go to, like, a functional medicine doctor that deals with the prevention of illness and stabilizing hormones, they could actually because when you're playing with hormones, you wanna be very careful. You need to be monitored by a doctor who actually has been trained in that area.
Depends basically, because like if you're doing this like through fitness and through diet, so basically eating more healthy whole foods, more fats, you know
Mhm,
structuring your carbs to be like in 1 or 2 meals a day so you can load the cravings, having more protein so you can protect your muscles, and training, heavy training, like that's like your body actually is trying to realign, you know.
mhm.
And this is one story. And the other story is HRT, where you're basically replacing your hormones. And I'm always advising, unless it's like really critical, like push that in your, I don't know, after 50s. Uh, HR,
Well, I think, it depends on the woman too, because some women go through perimenopause and, really early in life. Like I was 39 when I started to go through it. So it was, I think it depends on your genetics and your DNA, but you could go through, I've talked to a lot of women too, and some women have gone through it at a very early age, and some women go through it very later in life. But I think it all depends on the age of the DNA and what, was in their genetics, and just being aware of, trying to understand when they see these changes in themselves. But how does it affect muscle metabolism and energy and mood in ways that most women do not connect their hormones?
a lot. I don't know where to start, because you see, like sometimes, like people see muscles as, aesthetics, pure aesthetics, or they see muscles as something they don't want. Like they're afraid of muscle. They don't want to look, muscular and bulky. But that's not what being to have muscles, to preserve muscle mass. The problem is that after 40, like muscle is your main endocrine organ, and it does basically two things. It regulates your hormones, and the second thing, it regulates your blood sugar.
Mhm,
Like if you have strong legs, that's a huge indicator that you're gonna live longer, because what blood sugar does, what muscles are doing, they're actually all this blood sugar that you have, carbs that you're eating. Muscles are actually a huge spender. They're spending a lot of like this energy, and they're basically running your system. And there's a huge misunderstanding where people think like, oh, I need to regulate my hormones so I can get like muscles, or I need to take HRT so I can get muscles. No, you need muscles to regulate your hormones.
Right. Go ahead. No, I was gonna ask you, why do so many women spend so many years struggling before anyone tells them what's really going on?
In fitness related or medical related.
Fitness related.
Well, people are not educated. You have to understand this is something that like I can say like maybe in last 2 years,
Mhm.
started. Like when I was making this like my online course about like perimenopausal fitness, this rebuild and fit rebuild, perimenopause rebuild. Like I literally couldn't copy from someone. I would be happy if I can, sign up for a course and then download everything and,
Mhm.
but there was no material I can steal. There was no one I can steal from. And that's a huge problem. And also, like you're trying as maybe like 20 years ago when there was no difference between male or female athletes, they were trying to put like just less weight, less carbs, less fat, everything just like, like just smaller. As Stacey, she has her book like "Women Are Not Small Men." So basically, they were treating women as just smaller version of a male athlete. So right now, you have this like I like to call this willpower based fitness,
Right.
which is basically, like willpower for 20, 25-year olds, and then like, oh, you just need to push through just as, again, less weights, less food, and then just push through more cardio, So we're
Yeah.
basically making it like we didn't learn anything. We're basically making the same mistake we did, like 20, 30 years ago. We're making the same mistake now, and basically
Right.
we need to address this completely differently. That's what I can say. And what Milan can do if they find a coach or if they find someone that they're gonna follow, if he doesn't understand the differences between training a 25-year-old girl or a boy or like 45-year-old or 55-year-old, then just stay away from
Right. Now, this is one that surprise people. You say building muscle is actually the key to hormone health after 40, not just calorie cut in or do more cardio. Why is muscle so critical at this stage of life?
Well, I would say the main problem, the main thing, the is energy. And what you have this like muscle hormone loop, as I said before. So if you regulate your muscles, they're gonna regulate your hormones. Your hormones will regulate your sleep, your joint pain, lower estrogen, actually, because estrogen is a joint protector,
Hmm.
so you're gonna have like less joint pain. So that means you're gonna be able to move more, sleep. If you sleep more and you're able to move more, then life is already better, Like that's the main thing I would address. I wouldn't go like for like this thousand other things that you can get from. And I also wanna say it's like when, because I know like a lot of women are afraid. Oh, I don't want to look, strong, bulky. It's like, like a chance that you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna look as a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't exist. I wish I can, but like, don't worry, you're not gonna wake up one day and be like, oh my god, my arm is huge.
Right. Yeah. Now, what happens hormonally when a woman loses muscle mass, and why does that make everything worse?
So basically, when your body doesn't have muscle mass, like there's no reason to hold like more hormones, there's no if you don't have like, for example, your studio, your apartment, you don't need to earn that as much money as you did before, so you don't need to work that much, you don't need to put that much effort. You can just, cabin in the woods and, like earn for like few $100 a month, and that's it. That's exactly what's happening in our body, like if we don't move a lot, if we don't have muscles, then we don't need, the body doesn't need to push more hormones. It doesn't need a lot of energy, it doesn't need to regulate that much. That's it. You're just telling your body, it's like, it's okay. You don't have to work that much.
Right.
That's the first thing that happens. I like to address like this.
Right. I
Less
agree.
strong. And I also have like this whenever I work with people, there are like some things that gonna make, if you want to live longer, and have, like, for example, like 90 years, and your goal is to have this like life expectancy of 90 years. What you want to do is like address the last decade, last 90 years, and then what you want to do then is something that you need to do even in your 40s and your 50s. You can't just in your 80s, I'm just going to stay still, and then in my 80s I'm going to start training. It doesn't work that way. Life sucks. If you
Hmm.
don't if you can't tie your shoes, or lift a grandkid, or run or something like that, life, that's the thing that we're discussing here. It's not like biggest biceps or something like that, you know
Right.
so basically, there are things that you can follow, like strength, oral strength, which sometimes I like to say, like, you should be able to deadlift at least 1.5 or twice as your body weight,
Hmm.
which is a lot, but you have a lot of women in their 60s doing it, you know?
Right.
Which is like what, 200 pounds. This is like 90 kg, which is possible, but at least 1.5 to 2 depends on experience. And then you should be able to sit on the ground 90 degrees for at least 1 to 2 minutes. Just
Right.
straight legs, 90 degrees, and sit like for 2 minutes. Plank at least for 1 minute. Then your VO2 max is something that you should address as well. And then hormones, as we mentioned earlier, there's like when you go to see a doctor, he's gonna check your hormones, and there's a like scale, like from this to that. If it's in between, it's okay for him. Doesn't have to worry. He doesn't want to optimize your health. That's not his job. His job is to uh, basically to keep you away from getting ill. It's your job, actually. You have to be the CEO of your own health, to
Hmm.
optimize these hormones. Just having low testosterone is not a problem. That's not your doctor's problem, or you
Right.
don't have sex drive. That's not your doctor's problem.
Hmm.
So
Right.
that's something that you have to do for yourself. And just there are different standards from healthcare perspective to like being like a well optimized human being, something like
For the listeners, if you are a woman over 40 who has been frustrated, confused, or completely exhausted trying to figure out why your body isn't responding the way it used to, this conversation was made for you. Follow this podcast right now. Every week, we bring you real conversations that give you real answers about your health. Now, let's talk about the options women are hearing more and more about. Hormone replacement therapy, peptides. These are topics that come up constantly right now. What do women need to know before they consider either of these options?
I would say first what they need to know is that a lot of like all this like online influencers and clinics, they are earning really well or on
Mhm.
selling these peptides, on selling these HRTs. You know, Margins are huge. So they can start from this point where they want to sell me this, and it doesn't mean that I'm not saying it doesn't mean that it's harmful. Sometimes it's just useless, but it's misleading them, from what they need to hear. The biggest problem I see with the peptides is that this muscle sarcopenia, which starts from GLP-1s, where they lose their appetite and they don't eat enough food, and they don't train, their metabolism is going down, and basically they are in much worse state than they were before. I can suggest one thing, which is like they need to switch their mindset. Like, as I mentioned earlier, you can't start if they just start training or something. They can't start from losing fat first day.
Mhm.
They need to rebuild their system. They need to rebuild their metabolism. because their hormones change, their metabolism, their structure change. So what they need to do, they need to back off, and then reset their system, which is sleep, guts, and blood sugar. They need to reset that and then start rebuilding, which is like heavy lifts, even two times a week, even 3 times a week, not like every day a little bit. No, you need like
Right.
short sessions, even 20 minutes without warm up or, and then food. They need to see their body as, as a house that they're building. Yeah, you
Mhm.
can't build without building blocks. That's impossible. Fat are not your, like enemies. They're your best friends,
Right.
especially after 40s. So after rebuilding for 4 6 weeks, depends how committed you are, then you can start losing fat. And this is something that I like to address as body recomposition. So when you start eating healthier and lifting and your hormones are shifting, progesterone will drop,
Mhm.
estrogen and testosterone will go up. Your body will restructure, it will cut fat because it doesn't need fat that much, and it will rebuild muscles. It's also important not to go for body weight. The scale is not your friend at this time,
Right.
because when you're training, you're building muscles and losing fat. Sometimes you can add like 2 3 pounds, and you're like, oh my god, oh my god. But actually, the mirror will tell you something differently, or the tape, the measures, it close, something like that, something else that you need like to address, not the scales, because as I say, you can actually gain weight in the first 5 6 8 weeks of this recomposition rebuilding phase, which is actually a good thing, which means that you didn't lose muscle, you're building the muscle, so you're getting, how would I say, like more shape, something
Now
like
let's
that.
make this practical for like the women listening right now. What are the biggest mistakes women make with diet and exercise during perimenopause and menopause? The ones that you see over and over again.
Not resting enough, not eating enough,
Mhm.
training too much. This is something that usually they won't hear from their coach, they will be like, oh, you need to eat less, or like, or they expect the coach will tell them they need to, like, 80% of my, this is also the problem with GLP-1s, when we 80% of my clients, they don't have problem eating too much, they have other problem, they're not eating enough,
Right.
they're having like 2 meals per day, which one of the meals is actually, like terrible. And then the second meal is some kind of lunch with some protein or something like that. And put
Yes.
that person on some appetite suppressors, they're going to
Mhm.
start eating even less than they used before. So a practical advice would be like, you need to eat more. You need to restructure so you need to eat better. That's the thing. That's the mindset problem, not eating less, eat better. Sometimes even eat more, you know,
Mhm.
but good food, not chocolates.
Exactly. Now, what
Yeah,
should she be doing, this week, differently, starting this week? Like, what should women out there, if they want to start being proactive, what should they be doing differently starting this week?
we're talking about someone who is already lifting, or they don't lift at all.
For someone who has not started lifting yet.
Well, definitely they should look for something, some gym or something where they can. The good thing about you see, the especially this perimenopause, especially if you're starting training, you just started training in your perimenopause, and you have, like, for example, joint pain, joint problems. It's like the good thing about gym training in a gym environment is that all the movements are structured, like in other, jumping or other sports, there are like this, sudden movements that can actually hurt you. But with gym, it's not that, it's much more controlled. So first thing, they need to make a plan with sleep. As I said, you need to back up and restart your system, which is like sleep, guts, if you have like some digestion problems, you need to address that. And usually you cut, there are certain foods. I'm I have this on my website, how you can restart your digestion system, electrolytes, how you can
Mhm.
hydrate more. This is also a problem. A lot of people are dehydrated, especially if they
Right.
drink a lot of coffee. Uh, and sleep. It's really important. Sleep quality is more important than the time that we spend sleeping, and also sleep schedule, which means like sleeping in a certain time.
Yeah.
And I know it's a problem, but sometimes you just need to do what you need to do. The reward is much greater than you think.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I'm not saying you have to go to bed at 9 o'clock, but if it's 12, then it's 12 every day. Like don't stay like till 2 o'clock and then another day like you're exhausted or something. So your body needs a structure, and this
Yes.
structure is like certain foods at certain time, sleep at certain time. That's a
Mhm.
structure that will set your body, because hormones, they like this stability. Your body likes stability. It knows what resources it has. It knows what it should be doing.
Mhm.
That's like the first thing I would say. Like, you need to
Right.
address these issues, and then you need to start lifting. I mean,
Now, what is the single most important shift mentally or physically that changes everything for women at this stage?
you mean when they start lifting or in perimenopause?
Well, when they start lifting, because, we've talked about perimenopause, we've talked about how they should get more sleep. Sleep is very important, and, for, um, the single most important shift, mentally or physically that they need to make also. So basically for someone who wants to feel better and wants to start losing weight and wants to start looking better, we've talked about different things they can do, but a lot of women who are listening to this today are probably women who have not started lifting yet, that want to see a change in their body, that are 40 or older, that they need the help. So basically, I think most people that are listening today, they want a positive change in their body, they want to see a difference, but this is their guidebook of how to begin. Like for most people, what do you think the mental and physical changes, for women at this stage should be the most important?
So I can say for sure is like how much lifting 150 pounds from the floor up feels good.
Mhm.
How much lifting 150 pounds brings change to your self-esteem, and
Mhm.
how much feeling strong and being able to do all these things actually can do for your physical and for your mental well-being. And they sometimes, they not sometimes, but most of the times, they see this as, this is something I do for myself. This is, I deserve this, I need to give this to myself, you know because they see, because at that stage, like, you're giving to your family, you're giving to your friends, you're giving to your to your business, and then they see like, I have to do this, because my body's changing, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling like, if it's not now, I need to do, if it's not now, I won't be able to do it. This is my opportunity to give something to myself. This is something
Right.
I'm just saying from my clients,
Yeah.
and I like it. When I see this positive change, it gives me motivation to move more. When I see a lady who can lift, who can jump, who can do pull-ups or something like that, the
Yeah.
happiness or something like that. It's really positive,
Yeah.
like, it just spreads around everything, like,
Right.
you feel like you have it again, you know.
I love that. Now, for the women listening right now, who has been hard on herself, who has felt like she is failing in her own body, what do you want her to hear?
You mean for someone who haven't started lifting yet, right?
For someone who's been trying different things and she's just, whatever she tries, she feels like she's not succeeding. She feels like her body is failing her. She feels like she's failing her body. Like she's just, she keeps trying all these different things and nothing seems to work. So I guess words of encouragement. What would you tell someone that says, I think, I'm failing within my own body. Like everything I try, nothing seems to work. How would you respond to that?
I would just say, like, how to say it, it's a good thing that they are born right now. So
Hmm.
there's enough knowledge for them, for us coaches, for doctors to tell them what is happening.
Right.
Because 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, they would be just that's normal. But now,
Yeah.
I mean, it's expected. It's not normal for you to feel like your body's failing you. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, like, you know, there's a lie that goes out there like, oh, you can't do in your 40s as well as in your 20s. Nonsense. You can do more. You just need different approach. Like,
Hmm.
I, I call my clients, even myself, like I consider myself as a late bloomer.
Hmm.
Basically, like, like, because so I'm writing a book and it's called Optional Aging Society. And there's a thesis that it's called like like a collapse or traditional life arc, which is like start in your 20s, you peak
Right.
in your 30s, 35, and then drops, and then after is you kind of retired. But like now we live in this like optional aging society where basically like you can push the arc in 60s, 70s, and then you can have two careers, and then you can switch, and then you can become a mother in 50 when you're 50-year-old.
Right.
It's changing. You can see, these women can see in their body right in with their eyes. Like there are some, and there's no, like, if I can say what's the, like, this, how would I say, like, this secret drug that people are taking, I would say that's lifting.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand, like, our generations, maybe our great grandfathers, it started from our parents.
Yeah.
We've been living 100,000 years as a moving species, like hunting, running, doing physical work, even factory workers that were doing physical work. So basically, our
Right.
body, our hormones are, like, on sun, foods, whole foods, on moving, like whole day of moving or something like that. Like, and all of a sudden, like our parents and especially we started like just sitting all day, just sitting, doing like what, 3,000 steps a day. This is like, like hell. We have, like, for example, hamstring muscle, which is the back of our thigh. That's a muscle that is activated when we're sprinting and when we're mountain climbing. Like a normal day, even me, I'm a professional athlete. If I don't train in gym, I don't use hamstring. I'm not sprinting, I'm not mountain climbing. So basically we have muscles that doesn't do anything. Like, that's how this shift is big. Like, you basically, you're like, it's a body that it's meant for something else. So basically we have still to treat it as the body as itself, and it can give us really productive, things, and energy, and sleep. Uh, we can still look beautiful.
Yes, we can, definitely. Now, you've written a book, correct?
Yeah, I'm.
Can you tell us a little about it?
And that's my PhD, and I'm trying to write as a novel instead of like
See.
instead of like this scientific work, because I'm anthropologist, social anthropologist,
Mhm.
and and it's called like Optional Aging Society, and it basically addresses this like shifts. It started like, as I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe eight years ago,
Mhm.
because at that time I had a lot of clients there. They were doing HRT. At that time, HRT was specifically for men, for male HRT. At that time, I realized that it's going to be a huge problem, because you you could literally, like, I could see problems in relationships, in marriages, because you have like a couple, 60-year-old couple, and then you give testosterone to this guy and growth hormone, or stuff like that. and all of a sudden he has a sex drive of a teenager, and at that time we were believing that you can't do that to a woman body, which is which was at that time that was my thesis.
Mm,
But it shifted, and it's nice, it's shifted, it's nice. You can do this to anyone, and
right.
have positive effect. So that's how the and I'm trying on one hand, I'm trying to let people know, because what I can see is like you have people who are like, always on their phones, fast food, not sedentary life, things like that. So their health is like their 30 is just peak, and
Right.
they're gonna go down. But on the other side, you have people who are like investing more in longevity, in health, in their own well-being, and
Mhm.
there's a huge gap. The gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So basically, if you're investing a little bit now in your healthcare, and I mean like your personal well-being, that you have to be a CEO of your own health,
Right.
you have this huge opportunity to dominate after a certain age, because just people will just drop.
Yes, definitely. Now tell us about the services and the products that you provide.
So we have this online app. It's a platform, NFit Prime, and basically it's nfitprime. And they can find also on Instagram, Fit Prime, and we're specialized in it. For me, I have this approach. We're calling it like hormone back performance,
Mhm.
which means that we don't work with professional athletes. I used to work with professional athletes, but we're working more with people over 40 whose main goal is not to have, because you can optimize your body for many different goals. So optimizing a professional athlete's body, it's not the same as optimizing someone who wants to be able to focus as much as he can on his work, doesn't have like beer belly, or love handles, or like those shaky arms, like not
Yeah.
high centers, just normal, just look decent, nice in your dress, in some suit, and then come home and still play with their kids or with their husband. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So yeah, that's our philosophy. Hormone back performance. That's our philosophy. And basically, we have this coaching app, and we have groups. Most of our clients are me and my wife. We are like, and we have several coaches that are like training with people, but it's online, mostly online.
Mhm.
Not mostly. I have gyms here, but those are different things. But I can always I have experience direct contact with people, so that's one thing. But yeah, this is the service that I'm proud of.
I
Especially
love
as I
it.
said, when I started doing this, there was no anyone I can copy from.
Mhm.
There
Right.
were a lot of, like, of course, like people from the science field, but like
Mhm.
what we did with this course was like taking all this science knowledge and putting like day to day tasks. So what you have to do today, your food, your menu, how it should be, like just practical, that you don't
Right.
need to read all these papers about what is estrogen, what is progesterone, why it's shifting, like, and something that we're, how to say, we're insisting on is doing blood work, doing hormonal, like checking at least twice a year at first.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, and
Now
that's also assistance that we're providing.
that's great. That's really great, and they can find all that on your website? That's great. Now, I just wanna say to all the listeners out there, your body is not broken. It is changing, and there is significant difference. Like, Coach Boza has dedicated his career to helping women understand that difference and giving them a strategy that actually works to their biology instead of against it. I just wanna thank you so much, Coach Boza, for being on the show today. I think it's important that, especially women going through their changes, finding other thing, everybody's different, everybody reacts different to different things, and some things work for people and some things don't. But finding that one thing that works for them so they can change their life and actually live a healthy, happy, productive life and not have to suffer from all little symptoms we go through as we get older. And like you said, instead of, declining, we go up the peak and live a very happy, healthy life, going up the hill and really and enjoy in our 50s and our 60s and our
Yeah.
70s
What I
and be
like
able
to
to.
what I like to say is like you have to switch this mindset from a middle-aged person to being a late boomer. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm just a late
exactly.
boomer. That's it.
It's not the number, it's how you feel inside, and that's all that
Exactly.
matters. Yeah, definitely. I thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think you're wonderful, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future, and I just wanna thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your wisdom and sharing your app, and I really, enjoyed our conversation today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You have a great day.